Yes, Whalum has built up more. People from Emerald Place are not walking to the town beach. They have their own private beach there. And people aren't walking from further to go to the town beach. It's a nice sentiment, but they're not. They're taking their cars so they can pack up their kids and all the associated stuff with it. They're not walking a half a mile to the beach. The fact there's no sidewalk there is not the reason they're not walking to the beach. So again, I think something should be done there, but I do not think it should be the complete street application that we put forward to the state.
Mrs. Luck.
I'm in favor of alternative one as is, because I trust these gentlemen feel that it's the best chance to have it be successful.
For myself, first of all, I want to thank you for coming and providing. I've worked with you many years, as you know. I like the fact that it shows a unified plan. It certainly checks off more of the boxes. And just for the record, I don't think that anybody should come away with this thinking that I don't think that the beach area is an important area. I certainly do. And I think, I agree with the DPW director. I think that it's just premature. I think what we're asking doesn't encompass the whole project that would need to address it. And I think these three components address all the elements of town center that were talked about on the walking study that we had two of. So I think this, at the end of this, if we were to get it, would complete, for the most part, town center, and then we can address the attention fully on the whole scope of the town beach, because there are driving issues, there are street issues, there's fencing issues, there's a lot of different issues. So with that in mind, I would say I am completely in support of alternative one as is as well.
And Mr. Chair, if I may
Mrs.
add a comment. I'm confused because if I read the project details for the Whalen project, I feel like it exactly describes most of the things that should be done. So the concept that we don't understand what it needs, I don't find valid because the description describes what it needs. So I feel like once we had the money, we've written here what it needs, and therefore it could be done. So I don't really validate the concept that we don't know what it needs, because there's a huge write-up here. It's actually the longest write-up of all of them. And I do know people who walk there, and I suspect more would if they could.
But this isn't good. The statement is this isn't going to solve all those problems. This is just going to add a sidewalk. What the DPW director talked about, just adding that sidewalk would take away the parallel parking on the street or impinge that. So it's not a holistic plan to solve the problem. This is just adding a sidewalk.
I guess while parents are unloading, I've witnessed 2 cars be swiped by cars zooming down Prospect Street and took off rear view mirrors and swiped, and police came, et cetera. So I'm just saying, out of experience with 4 children at this site, I have had safety circumstances, and I'm just advocating for it.
I appreciate that, but this doesn't solve what you're trying to solve. It doesn't do a loading zone. It actually makes less space for loading by putting the sidewalk in.
Well, I guess it just applies $220,000 to the project that is better than what it has now, which is 0.
Yeah, I don't think there's any denying of that. I don't think there's any denying that if we got it, sure, it would make it better.
It would be better.
I don't disagree with that. Yep. All right, so I would entertain a motion on this unless somebody has questions about any particular thing from...
Sure. I would make a motion that we submit round 2 request for the Complete Streets project, and we request item 1, 4, and 3, which would total out a request for $340,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 No.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. So is defeated 2-3.
I make a motion we submit alternative 1 as described.
Do I have a second? Any further discussion on that?
I will support this motion because it's going to pass. But I also hope, first I want to thank you guys for your hard work on this. I've been in your position before, and I know it's difficult when you're like, hey, I know what I'm talking about here. But you have, board members, Kate, Selectman Adams and I, who are just feel really adamantly that we have to do something in Whalum. And as I said first time, maybe this isn't the project for it, but we definitely need to get a project for it.
And I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah. So with that, that's my
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Just for
I-
consistency.
Opposed?
I said nay already.
Okay. So 4-1, it passes. So we will submit alternative 1 as it is written. I thank you, both gentlemen, and DPW Director, Town Manager, for all the work.
Thank you very much. Good luck to us all.
And let's hope we're successful.
When is the funding notified? When is that a spring thing, or?
Probably late fall.
Late fall,
It'll probably be, yeah, probably end of the year, I would say.
Okay.
And generally, they keep it a secret because they like the lieutenant governor to notify the communities that have been
Well,
selected.
Can't get away from the pomp.
If the money's awarded, how long do you have to claim it or use it in terms of us needing
It's
to
like-
allocate the additional
So
funding?
it's like Chapter 90 money. So the town will sign into an agreement with the town. DPW will administer the project just like a Chapter 90 project, so you'll request reimbursement on various items as the work progresses. It's a 1 year, generally it's a 1 year contract, so if you got your contract in the fall, you'd have to spend it by September 30th, that's what it was. However, many communities this year, we put out projects to bid because they're smaller projects. The prices came in really, really high, so we assisted cities and towns in requesting an extension of time. Those communities got a 1 year extension, so you can request an extension of time. One of the things that the town may want to do is include the items of this work in a larger, in the town-wide program. Some communities are doing that. So instead of putting a project out that's, $350,000, you're putting out a $1.2 million paving program that have these items in it. So that's another alternative to keep your costs lower, advance the project, get more contractor interest in bidding, right? So,
Excellent.
did I answer your question?
Yes.
I kind of lost track after
You
I started
answered-
going.
you answered
Yeah,
my
how long,
question.
I wanted to
Questions
know
I
how
didn't
long we
ask.
had, because we may have to allocate town money, and, that takes a little bit
Right.
of time if it had to go through a town meeting or something.
Right.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Hope,
Thank you so
let's
much.
hope we're successful.
You got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take something out of order because we have the DPW Director here. I want to go to number 1 of old business. Discussion about the estimate for repairs to the old primary school.
I'll start us off
Yes,
and
please.
then ask the DPW director to come up to answer further
Do you have
questions.
anything?
Yeah, in my report, the first
Okay.
item in my report is on this topic. So following the September 10th Selectmen's Meeting discussion on the estimate for the identified repairs that the APDC requested, that the town undertake in order to prevent further deterioration to that building, I met with the DPW director and the facilities director to review the facilities budget and the projects that were identified to be undertaken this fiscal year. One discussion point that we did not go over at the September 10th meeting, that was in the facilities director's estimate, was a disclaimer that the roof repairs do not include unseen structural damage that may be present from weather damage, the security monitoring, and electrical costs. I've since contacted Vertex, the firm that conducted the property condition assessment on that building, to get an estimate on how much it would be to have their structural engineer inspect the building and issue their findings. And I should have that, I thought, by the close of today, but I still am awaiting that. As another follow-up to that discussion, I did a full review of that account and what is available for projects after deducting annual maintenance expenses, security, fire, alarm inspections, and other annual contracted costs. There's approximately $50,000 for projects, unless there are some unforeseen emergencies. The projects that were identified during the fiscal 20 budget process and subsequent were the Town Hall ADA ramp in excess of the $27,000 that we received for in the state earmark. Town Hall to fix the sidewalk to align with the ramp out front. Eagle House HVAC project, that was a state earmark, so anything in excess of $40,000 of that earmark. Gutter repairs at the Eagle House, painting the front of the building, the front doors at the Ritter Building, replacing the side entry access at the Ritter Building, fixing an internal sewer line at the Ritter Building, and minor electrical light switches at the Ritter Building. The initial list also had included the reconfiguration of the Ritter entryway, but due to the estimates received so far, this will need to be submitted as a capital project. The facilities director is working on obtaining estimates for the above-mentioned projects, but based on the projects listed above, we believe there would not be sufficient funds to cover all of these projects and repairs to the old primary school, unless they were not done, these projects. And just to add on to that, further in my report that I'll discuss later this evening, is all the ADA work that's coming down the pipeline that's going to be identified. So in our assessment of the buildings will be a transition plan that will develop on how we're going to address ADA compliance. And if there's things that if we need to address right away, those would also have to take priority.
In reviewing our discussion last week, I want to maybe, I don't know if I stipulated or not, I thought I did, but I'll make it clearer today, that I am for putting the money into the building with the understanding, and this is why I think another structural engineer is important. I don't want to put the money into the building if all of a sudden we say okay and they get up on the roof and the roof has structural problems. I don't want to put money into a building that has other issues. If we put the money into it, I want to make sure that we have a completely sealed envelope that is protected from the elements, that there won't be any further deterioration of the building by what we do. But that is important to ascertain, because these things that the town manager just mentioned in the first part of her report were not clear to me that there may be. I didn't see that last line, that asterisk line, that, well, I don't know what we're going to find when we go on the roof. So maybe it's a good idea to go on the roof or look in the attic, because during public comment he said they didn't go in the attic. It would be nice to know what is the structure of the roof. Is it sound? And what does it take? And is $11,000 plus, somewhere between $11,000 and $12,000, does it seal the building and protect it? Because if we're just doing cosmetic work and it's just throwing away money, then I have a completely different idea about what we should do. Mr. Rodriguez.
Maybe I can add something to that, Mr. Chairman. And I think you're exactly right. And maybe we missed, you folks missed that last caveat there. And it's far be it for me to be critical. I miss so many things sometimes, but we do have to get in the attic. What that number represents is some, and I mean to minimize it, but some covering for the roof in question and the repair of shingles here and there on the main gable roof. As soon as you walk on that roof, the shingles are so brittle that it's likely you will create more leaks getting to fix the leak than fixing the leak itself. That's a fact. I'm going to try very desperately to keep the facts separate from my personal feelings here, which is difficult to do, because as much as I appreciate the passion of folks that would like to restore that building, it's too far gone. I know Mr. Dion was in today, and I couldn't convince him of that. But I appreciate his passion. But look, the roofing, structurally, could take us right out of the ball game anyway, which I expect it's going to, because the woodwork below that structure is buckled. And it didn't just buckle from dry conditions, it buckled from moisture. So, I'm not going to gamble on that roof, but I'm going to say you probably are not going to be able to cover that roof and make it tight without some structural work. But we're going to find that out. Also, every window leaks. The windows that have been broken have been covered with plywood at the suggestion of the police department and the fire department, just simply to for vandalism, protect it from vandalism. If you look closely at the building, you don't have to look too closely, you'll see that all the grout between the bricks, not all of it, most of it is cracked. That means that moisture's getting through the bricks. I doubt that anybody would choose to point all those bricks, but You know, people with a passion, again, I respect that. When the town manager was Dan Keyes, and I mention his name only because to put it in some sort of I don't know how many years ago that was. We walked into the building as soon as the school left it to us. Thank you. And we had an architectural engineer, and he said, "Boy, this really has good bones," and it did. It did. It was loaded with asbestos. It's still loaded with asbestos, only now it's loaded with black mold. So the damage has already been done. I mean, we'll wait to see what Vertex has to say. They're professionals, and we'll go on their say-so. But having seen that, maybe spent more time in that than most people, it doesn't make me an authority, but it's miserable in there. It's absolutely miserable. You can't breathe. It's too far gone. Could we have done something with it when the school left it? Sure. We tried to. It didn't work out. That added 4 or 5 years to it. And then there's been 4 or 5 more years and on. It's just gone by. It reminds me of people that purchase an old Colonial, and they know full well that, you know, it's going to cost them an arm and a leg. It's going to be a money pit, but they have the passion for that house. So it's in their heart to bring it back to what it was, even though they're going to spend more money. You know, it's just not practical for us as a town. Yes, have that passion, but understand that it's not financially, you know, it's not good financial sense when you just need to knock it down. I know people have gone to school there. Some people have taught there. My mother-in-law taught there. I mean, for some people, it's a very large place in their heart.
At the risk of interrupting, but I've already interrupted. You said at the beginning you would try to stick with the facts, but I think you went on full-blown editorial.
Okay,
So
and I always
again, as I said to a public commenter, I know your position. You made your position very clear.
Okay. Then let me be frank and not being rude. To put any more money into that building is ludicrous. We need to knock it down. At that point, whatever the people decide to do or you decide to do, let's have a plan and do it. But for the person that has a staff that has to take care of that building, let's not put another dime into it until we look to demolish it. Because before we put a nail in that building, we have to check where's the asbestos. So we have to do an entire asbestos survey. That's not cheap. And then if we have to look at removing the asbestos, why the hell would we remove the asbestos from the building to do what?
I get it.
All right.
I get it.
I agree with you, Jay.
Questions?
I agree wholeheartedly.
So do we know what Vertex is going to charge to do this inspection?
I have not got the estimate.
That was going to be my comment. I would venture to think it's going to be several $1,000s to do that, so.
I'd be happy to go in the attic. If you trust my judgment. I mean, if you trust my judgment on trees, I know a lot of times the board you have to hear from a third party impartial, but listen, I've got no problem going into the attic.
Yeah, I know, but to be very honest, you've already made your case about what you feel about it, so I don't think you'd come back and, I mean, there's enough things that you've said about the building to say that you
With all
think it should
due
be.
respect, do you think that would sway my passion, would sway to lose my
Unintentionally, I don't
integrity?
mean that as an insult. I mean, don't take it as an insult. It would
Well,
be
I
nice to
kinda-
have somebody who has a structural engineering background to look at.
Trying
hey,
to save
I
you
understand.
thousands of dollars.
I fully understand. And again, I don't mean to undermine I appreciate you offering. But I think unless the number that comes back to do this is exorbitant.
I don't expect it will be, because it was going to be 1 day of field time and 1 day to write up the findings. So I don't,
Yeah, probably $150 an hour.
What?
so.
It seems pretty obvious. I mean, I'm going to have to agree with Mr. Rodigans over here. It seems really obvious that this building is past the point of repair. I mean, I just, down in Watertown, just had to redo a building that was built in 1966, the out exterior facade, millions of dollars. I mean, it's ridiculous how much money this stuff costs. And water infiltration is, on a brick exterior, is really problematic. And a building that hasn't been, heated and properly cooled over this many years, the building is gone. I think we have to be realistic about what's going on here. I mean, I don't think you need an engineer to go over there and identify that the building is falling down and should be torn down. To me, that's also a waste of money.
Well, I don't need an engineer to tell me that. I think we're at such a stalemate with the town may need
Yes,
an
I
engineer to do
agree.
it. Just to have somebody else, third party, say that. I would just, again, I have my opinion and I'm sold, but I think with the zero consensus we've had on the property, it might be worth spending a
I
couple.
mean, remember, we talked about, and I'll get to you next, Mrs. Adams. I just want to point out that when we talked about what could happen with the property, there were 4 things that were pointed out. It was sale, lease, rebuild, demolish. Okay? If this turns out to be true, that the building, the envelope of the building is not salvageable, that narrows it down to 1, because then there's no 3 anymore. And then we can talk about the land, the sale and lease of the land, but that, I think, has its own question. But at least we know that about the building and not waste time and money investigating it. But I think to get to that, for my sake, I agree with Mr. McQuaid and Mrs. Luck saying that I think the town, we want to be able to point to something that says, look, these people have no vested interest. They've done a statistical and structural analysis and come back with this. Yes.
Okay, so just a couple thoughts I jotted down. One is in terms of something being salvageable. Almost every building's salvageable, it just comes down to money. That being said, that's not my point of view on what should happen here, but that's really, no matter how much we study it or how much we pay people to study it, no matter how much damage it has, it probably can be repaired 10, 15 million, 20 million.
But is
So-
it feasible?
No, I'm just saying that
I would agree
the
with you.
more we study it, the more money we spend on it. The answer's always going to be, it could be. But what's the feasibility of using the building? I really like the piece of land to be maintained for municipal future use, whether it has the building on it or not. And in terms of what data we've collected from town, when conveyance has been offered on that site 3 times through town meeting, they've said no. So I think the sentiment of the town since 2016, the 3 times the article has come up, they have voted to maintain the piece of land or the property under town control. That brings me to my other thoughts, and I'll be quick as possible, but if the sentiment of the town is to keep it, then what's the feasibility of the town owning another building? And I think if we're allocating funds, we have buildings like Town Hall and Ritter that we can only spread ourselves so thin with capital money while maintaining some of our historic buildings. And so in order to put money into maintaining that as a municipal space, we just don't have enough money to maintain the buildings we are in current use. That one's not in current use. To put a little context, because a lot of people talk about it's good bones or it's nice rooms. In 2005, when that building was left, I mentioned this before, my mother was working in there. The conditions were not good, so it's not as if it deteriorated from 2005 till now under its current state, but it had been deteriorating, and the downstairs was considered sort of a sick environment because it's a split level and it's a basement. And the heat was unpleasant, it sprayed steam. I think the electrical is completely gone. So on and so forth. And so in terms of going back to 2005 when that building was left, it was not a pleasant place to be, but it does have a lot of charm because it's a big old brick building. But can a town afford an empty piece of charm? I don't think so. I've obviously advocated for that to be returned to land. That being said, what Selectman McQuaid just said was, what's the sentiment of the town? What kind of information do they want? And based on things Mr. Rodequin said, I would pose that perhaps we offer a demolition article to see if the town wants it or not. We haven't done that. The demolition work has been done through citizen petition, but we'd still have to go through APDC, we'd still have to study it. But we keep saying we don't know how the town feels. If we put on a warrant article that offers the demolition pathway of the building, then I think through town meeting, we would find out from what is really the legislative branch what they want to do with the building, because anything we work on has to go through them. I think it's time to offer demolition and see what the sentiment is.
When are you saying for this special town meeting?
Sure. It's our goal.
Well, yeah.
Our goal
Yeah.
to
Well, we haven't even discussed the goal yet.
No, but it's our goal to do something with that parcel, but we can't do it without the okay from the town. And so I'm saying, let's put something out there that tests how they feel. Everybody knows how I feel. We know how each other most likely feels. But what really matters is how does the town feel about the outcome of that space? So let's put it on and see what they say. And then that'll give us direction, and that direction will probably be achievable because it has the support. If they say yes, then we know, okay, they see that building gone and we can work towards that goal. If they say no, then we might have to work more towards saving it.
Yeah, but I think, from my perspective, I think that we want to have a holistic view. If we demolish it, this was my objection when it was a citizen petition article, is that I want to know what's going to happen after that.
Oh, a park, of course.
So, well, we're not going to get from that point, from where we are now to that point in the 2 weeks that we have left to get an article.
Pay for the grass seed.
I'm for putting such an article on whatever we decide to hit our goal. But in the spring, I'm just looking at currently now. It sounds like, from what I understand, where we all stand, and I'll let you speak in a minute, Mr. McGrath, that we're all kind of leaning toward, you know what, maybe we find out at least before we vote on it, maybe we find out how much they want to do the structural thing. If that's the final report, then maybe we come to a determination, and that will really guide us in a direction about what we want to do and head us toward our goal and make it a whole lot easier than thinking about other options that were available before this.
I feel that it's irresponsible to put forward a demolition article without that final
Okay.
checking.
Yeah, and I think there are people, certainly even on this board and probably out in the public who would agree to that.
Yeah, well,
It depends on what the quote is. If the quote comes in and we're going to spend $5,000,
Yes,
then I'm going to be like, you know what, maybe we need to make a determination. If it comes in at $2,000 or
Right.
$1,500, I don't know what it is, so maybe I could go with that.
The one
Yes,
thing that
I
I would
agree.
add to, I agree with the engineering part, but the putting an article for demolition, there's also the money part of it too. So you got to come up with, the close to $500,000 to tear it down and, plant grass, let alone improve it any further than that. So it's you would need to identify a funding source in that short amount of time too.
This is just a question, Heather, but can we do an article to gather sentiment and fund it later?
Non-binding.
You could do a non-binding
And that's
question.
more of my point, is it's time to reach out and get the opinion from the community. And we say, let's have little charrettes and this and that, et cetera, and we've done a lot of that. But what really matters is what does town meeting decide? So let's throw something out there to get their sentiment. And it doesn't mean we still have to go through, demolition rules and things like that. But I think it's a true time to just say, what do they want, not what do we want? Because we're never going to get anywhere if we don't truly take our direction from the town sentiment. They're the legislative branch, and it's always going to go back to them, and I'm just ready for a conclusion.
Okay, if you make a motion for a non-binding article, I will second it.
Okay. Would you like to make the motion and I would second it?
Agenda.
Yeah, well, we can wait.
Are we on item 1?
We can do that on the special town meeting articles on
All right.
3, if you want to do that. And
Okay.
when is the warrant close again?
The 30th.
Of
So
this month? So we have to do it tonight, because
I think-
it's the last meeting.
Holy smokes.
Just to urge you, the three of you who are in favor of, I want to just relate it to, if this was your own house and you have something that's no longer working, how much money does it take for you to know it's not working? The building currently, what is it doing for us as a town? Nothing, besides costing us money. So why do we need to spend more money to figure out that, we already know that it's not up to code. We know that. We already know that if you want to sell this building, you have to bring it to code. And we already know that. We already know that the roof has water infiltration, that the bricks have water infiltration. What more do we need to know to determine that this building is not working for us anymore?
Well,
Why do we need to spend more money?
My answer to that would be, I don't know. But because Ms. Adams references all the other times we brought this property to town meeting, and she thinks she has a reason for the answer that we got. But what I heard every single time was, we need more information. Every time we've brought any article having to do with any of these buildings to the town, I've heard, we need more information. And to just bring the same article back and not bring any additional information, or even a cost or a plan for the future, I don't think we're doing the work to answer the questions the town has to rush this to a fall town meeting. I think it's certainly in the spring would be a perfectly fine time to do it, but to go to town meeting for a non-binding vote and not bring any new information, I don't think that gets us anywhere, except for we're going to all waste an hour's worth of our time on the floor of town meeting to talk about a non-binding issue.
I'm with Selectman Jeffries in the sense that what I said when I started speaking on this topic is that no matter what we find, it can be repaired, and then there's a price tag to that. And so we're basically going to find out that it's damaged and that we could fix it, and this is for how much, but we're going to spend money getting that information, and we already know it. We know that if we want to save that building, it needs millions of dollars. And then we need a feasible use. And in terms of the public commenter at the beginning, in terms of apartments and everything, there has been great effort. There's great history there. And back in 2009, of somebody truly trying that. And really, that was looked at as an outcome. I mean, the property was conveyed for the selectmen to sell for that purpose and then unconveyed in one of these conveyance meetings. But I guess I just really value that municipal parcel. I value land more than buildings because the buildings come and go and the land stays. And I think there's a sentiment to keep the parcels in the center as municipal use. And I think there's a great path for that piece to be a wonderful park and an upgrade from the danger triangle that we currently
Right, so
use.
I think we should focus our goal on doing that and bringing together a full package to special town meeting. That would be my
But
point.
what does a full package mean?
That means a whole plan that we think we'll know how much it's going to take to bring the building down, and how much it's going to take to get rid of the asbestos.
You know how much to bring it down. That's all in previously paid for reports, so you can get a guesstimate, you know.
But we'd want to, again, they changed by the year because of inflation and everything.
But you can calculate that.
And you'd want to know, what are you going to do with it? And that comes with its own cost, et cetera. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of planning to do, and a non-binding article for a town meeting that we don't know, how well attended it's going to be, and that changes its,
But that's the governmental process, attendance or otherwise. As long as they're quorum, that's the legal process, whatever you bring to it.
I didn't say it wasn't legal, clearly.
There's no other process, really. I have a question in terms of tonight being the last night we can work on articles. Are we submitting any?
That's
we haven't
why
gone
there's
over
an
any.
agenda topic for discussion about articles for the special town meeting.
We haven't made any, so do we have some?
I have
We made
like
one in executive.
placeholders that are discussion items on tonight.
We'll
Who makes
discuss that.
them?
We'll discuss that. The town manager.
Okay. Because the planning board makes their own articles.
Yeah,
I find it
mean,
weird we don't make our own.
For this board, most of them are budgetary and financial, so they come from the town manager. So let's stay on this topic. Mr. McGrath, you're the chair, right?
Yes.
Chair of the APDC.
Richard McGrath, 22 Cushion Lane, Chairman of the APDC. On the condition of the building, there were at least 2 buildings in Fitchburg that were vacant as long as this one, and perhaps longer, and in similar condition with the roof and the brickwork, and they were sold to somebody in the community, and with the stipulation that they be fixed up, and they're still in position where they were originally.
And what's their current use?
One was sold to an artist. She used it as the Ashburnham Street School, I believe, and she used it as a residence and as a studio. There's one on Lunenburg Street that I worked on, and that was, I think it's just used for storage. But the exterior, the windows, everything's been restored on it, which was part of the stipulation for the sale of it. The APDC had recommended we follow the model that the town used for the Jones House and the Brown House, which were in similar dilapidated condition. The roof on the Brown House was leaking. It was being used as the police annex at the time. All the shingles were way beyond where they should have been replaced. And the Jones House had similar conditions. They were both sold for minimal money with the stipulation that they be fixed up, and they were, and they're still there, and they're on the tax rolls. The APDC has recommended that we follow that model, that the building be put on the market with minimal sale price, and then have stipulations that it be restored in a certain amount of time. To us, that would be a simple solution to everything. For you guys, it wouldn't be, you wouldn't have to talk about it anymore. It wouldn't cost a lot of money to tear it down, and it would be on the tax rolls, bringing in money again, and it would still be there in the Architectural Preservation District. And that was our position on it. We thought it was a simple solution.
Obviously, that gets predicated on the fact of, does the town want to sell the property? And that's been,
Right.
that's been a major,
Yes.
that's been a major conflict of people who have a viewpoint of what should
Yeah,
happen with
yeah,
the land,
yeah.
regardless of the building.
Yeah.
So that plan won't work if it's a clear decision not to sell the property.
So is it possible that that could be on the warrant again?
Well, right, but we're probably, I don't know what my colleague's going to put on, because there's been talk about an article. I don't see any article on this building happening in the special town meeting. I'd rather see it on the spring town meeting, the annual one. But sure, I mean, whatever we're going to do has to come before the town again.
Yes, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And if your board wants to bring it as an article, I think that would be another way. I mean, we can approach it from our angle, you can approach it from your angle.
Yes. We thought it would be best to test it to see if it could be sold. If it can be sold, that would be a simple solution. And then for some reason, if there's no interest in the building, if the cost of renovation is so exorbitant that,
Well, we haven't even gotten that far, because the town has not approved it going into the custody of the Board of Selectmen with the option of selling
Right,
it. That has
yes.
been defeated on several occasions.
yes, yeah, yeah.
So
but if
in a way, on those, at least in those times and places with the people attending, the people have spoken. They don't
Right.
want it sold.
Yes, yeah. But if it did go down the line, and if it was offered for sale and it didn't sell, then the next step would be to go for demolition.
And
And that would be a way to get through the APDC.
And
Excellent.
Mr. Chairman, just to put context to this, it was in 2019 Springtown meeting, there was a conveyance article for that parcel, and part of the discussion, because we met with APDC, was this recommendation. So we have visited this information, put it on a warrant, created an article, brought it to town meeting, and it was voted down. So we do have that data that the town said no to that sentiment.
But it missed the two-thirds majority by 4 votes, and again, you're calling it definitive. I heard we need more information out of that.
I'm just putting context to the discussion that what is
doing the
being
same.
recommended has occurred.
right.
That's just a fact. It's not an argument, it's a fact.
And what I said was a fact also.
So I appreciate that, and I'm sure we're going to,
We'll talk
it's not
about
off our plate yet.
Right, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so you're going to get us what that number is.
Yes.
right? All right. So,
Mr. Chair, could we also ask Mr. Rodigans to stay for number 3 on the current business?
under current business.
Layout hearing?
Sure. I mean, if we can take that out of order if you'd like. I'd like to let Mr. Rodigans go home if he can. So, request for layout hearing. Does anybody have any objection to taking that out of order? I mean, eventually we
Nope.
have to hit all these anyway.
I think we're already out of order, so we can stay that way.
Request for layout hearing for Butterfly Lane. Hearing date, October 15th. So, what do we have?
So this is going to be before the planning board, before it comes to the selectmen. So they'll give their recommendations. And a public hearing process is required. It would have to be voted on town meeting. And that's one of the discussion points under the articles for special town meeting, of putting an article, a placeholder basically for an article for that.
Why is this called a lane? Doesn't it look like a court to me? Doesn't a lane enter on one street and has another entrance on the same street further down? Anyway.
It sounded pretty.
I would just like to ask DPW Director if he has any insight into problems, any information that would lead us to question whether or not we should do this.
Where is this off of, first of all? What street is
Elmwood Road.
Butterfly Lane off
Elmwood.
of?
Elmwood Road.
Okay.
If you go down
Really
2A
close.
traveling east, take a right on Elmwood. It's up there about, what, half a mile?
Used to be.
It's pretty close to 2A, isn't
Pretty
it?
closer to a quarter mile? 300 yards? I don't know. It's up there on the first right. What I can tell you, Mr. Jeffries, is that Mr. Walsh, who is the reviewing engineer for the planning board, and Mr. Burney walked Butterfly Lane. And Mr. Burney told me that there was a minimal punch list. Some cracking where the new pavement of Butterfly Lane met Elmwood Road. Some cleaning of the catch basins and the interceptor line, and inverts were to be built in the interceptor drain line. That's all they found. The pavement conditions were fine. I mentioned the question about the pavement overlay. It didn't seem to be an issue. It was well built. And in terms of, my part of it, or the structural part of it, Mr. Walsh, I have every confidence in him. He's very good at what he does. So there's very few things that I'm sure they could knock off in a couple of days if they put their mind to it.
Would you support this becoming a town road?
Sure. They've gone through the process. And in fact, they were ready for this process probably 3 years ago. So yes, we'd have to accept it. Yeah.
I have a question about, I heard that there are special structures that you'd need a vac truck to maintain.
There's an interceptor. There's a manhole at the end of it. We would have to have a vac truck. Yes,
But we don't.
But we don't, so we'd have to, outsource that one.
So what does that cost the town?
I really don't know. We haven't had to do that yet,
So wouldn't that be a reason not to accept it?
Certainly would be data to have when it comes before us.
When they went through all the permitting and the drainage component of the permitting was addressed, it was decided that that's the drainage structure that would be placed there, and it was discussed that we didn't have the capabilities of it, that would have to be outsourced.
So who has to pay for it?
Well, if we own the road and we own to the right-of-way, it would be we, the town.
Are they currently, do you know if they're currently a condo association?
I'm not aware of that, no, I don't
They're
know.
individual homes, right?
Sometimes,
I don't know if
individual
it's
homes
under
are.
that or not, I really don't know, I'm sorry.
And why wasn't it originally a public road? What prohibited it from, why did it become a private road from its inception?
It was never a private road.
Whenever they build a development like that.
They built a development property owned by the developer, builds it to subdivision specifications through the planning board with the intention of making it a public way, going to town meeting and all the hearings, as the town manager said, up to that point, goes to town meeting for final acceptance.
Okay.
If they were going to build a private road, if it was their intention to do so, then the restrictions of the width, the drainage, and other infrastructure components wouldn't be as strict.
Okay.
Heather, can you find out for us if this is a condo association?
I'll look into that.
All right.
Do we have an estimation? Because every time we accept a public road, this has come up many times.
It has. I think Mr. Bowen brought it up initially.
Well, and he's absolutely right. And so, in memory of his serving on the board, I will continue bringing it up because not only is the drainage an issue, that we have, there's a drainage methodology or manhole that we don't have the equipment, so we have to outsource it. That's a cost to the town. The plowing of the road is a cost to the town.
Sure.
The repaving of it in the pavement management plan eventually is a cost to the town. Did we ever go into what the estimate of accepting a public road is?
I don't believe we have.
That would be a good,
I think
good thing
that-
to know, I think.
Yeah, well, it would change, Heather, wouldn't it change the whole process? through the planning board, bylaws and restrictions and specifications for a road? If they wouldn't lead up to final acceptance?
I'm not sure.
Well, there's no promise of
Yeah,
publication.
it's you, they make a recommendation or not, like, so the selectmen support it or not at the public hearing, and that's what goes
Yeah.
to town meeting. So if you don't accept the road layout, that recommendation is made at town meeting.
I was on the planning board when we approved this one, and they made some argument of why they needed that particular storm drainage, just for the way that the property worked. So that was one reason. But the argument I always made when people say how much does it cost to accept this as a public road, what's the impact of the town? My argument is the same. They pay taxes like everybody else who lives on a road in the town, who gets the road taken care of because it's a town road. What makes them different because they showed up late to the party?
Well, you know, when they paved Sunset Lane, we had to pay for it.
Not you
Right.
personally.
Yes, personally.
You can
It was
assess
done
it on
through-
your property.
It was done through
It was a
betterment.
betterment. It was a betterment. You know, we had to pay for the road
Well, and
to
that,
get it accepted.
right, but they built the road. The developer built the road. You're talking about the maintenance of it. You don't pay Jack personally to come plow it or maintain it in the future. They built it. It's just the maintenance.
But they built it with the interceptor, that required a special piece of equipment that the town doesn't have.
And if it's a condo.
I remember,
association-
Mrs. Bertram bringing this up many, many times, this particular, I'm glad you mentioned it, because I remember her bringing this up many times with this particular drainage system that they were using.
It's actually Storm Scepter, it just came to me.
Thank you. So, I understand, I guess I'm not saying that we should never grow the town as far as the accepted roads, but if we have to apply maintenance to them and there are costs with that, yes, they come out of taxes, but why allow a drainage system that if we're going to accept the road and we have to maintain, would we accept something that we don't have any equipment to?
Exactly.
So either we have to outsource it or we got to get the equipment.
And the condo association question for me is really important because if they are a condo association, what that does for them is it gives them private rules in which, we as a town can't say you have to stop making noise. Well, we can, but as a condo association, you can put a lot more rules on the people who live in that association than a town can do on regular homeowners. And so you get the benefit of a lot of those rules then increase value because you can assure someone that by moving into this community that you can have a certain quality of life. The downside of the condo association is that if they are an association and they're asking the town to turn this into a public road, they are exporting their cost to us as the town while still getting the benefit of being a condo association. And so I would just urge that whenever we have condo associations, if they are one, that that we would not turn their roads into public roads.
Is a road like Cortlandt Circle, is that a public road?
No, it's not.
Right, see, so there's an example that Mr. Jeffries is saying, so there's a great example.
Sometimes they don't.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that we maybe way upstream than it coming to us here need to address because I think that there is a cost associated with adopting the road. And,
The Woodland neighborhood, private road
private.
once you get off of Northfield as well?
Where are you?
The Woodlands,
Yes,
all private
private.
off
Yeah,
of
that's all private
Northfield.
too, right.
So that does happen.
So there's certain advantages, for instance, size of the lot.
Yep.
So you can get more structures,
Right.
more money.
But
Because you can assign common area and stuff like that.
Common yard,
Right,
yeah, Flat
you can-
Hill, it's all common yard.
again,
Every house looks nice.
we spoke about this at length when I was on the planning board for this project sparked the debate. But there's no guarantee that when it is a condo association, that they're going to maintain it to the town's specifications, because it's up to them funding it. And even with any of the other stormwater structures on the property, in condo associations, they are often the first thing to not get maintained. And so with stormwater being an important thing in town and in the state, if we want to have the assurance that it's going to be taken care of properly, having it in the town's realm of control is also a benefit.
But I just don't really understand why the planning board would have approved that
it was,
particular, you
Again.
know, knowing down the road, we're going to accept it. I think it was foolish of the planning board to allow them to put that drainage system
I
in.
can't remember the specifics
I
of it
would
because it's
hesitate
been,
putting such words on it, but
it's
it's
been
we
5
were
years
there.
since I had a debate, but it was a long one, and there was a very explicit reason of why they could not use the traditional storm structure.
So, Mr. Chair, to move forward on this topic, since town meeting decides anyways, could we get more information on the storm scepter future cost? Because I feel like then that'll help us understand our own conversation and put context to what that means. I mean, if it's a $50,000 piece of equipment versus 500, I don't know anything about storm scepter
Yeah.
drains.
The truck
but-
is about, I don't know about the used market, but I came before the capital planning committee because they wanted the same information, $350,000 to $450,000 for the truck.
And that's the only
I
place
wish
you would
I
be.
had, and I can get it and give it to the town manager so she can relay it to you, the
That
cost.
$350,000?
The cost of,
But you wouldn't need to own the truck to clean one, you outsource
So,
it.
no, so then
outsource it.
how much is it to
and
outsource?
we
That's
do-
all we need to
We do,
understand.
outsource that. We have outsourced it. I just don't have those figures because it's by the hour with a 4-hour minimum. We did them up at Sunset Lane at the top of your very driveway. That's how those were cleaned.
And was that because there was a problem with it? Because
Well, in
ordinarily
the
they're
original
not, right?
construction that you paid for, there were some buried manholes that we found. It was pitched the wrong way, and it's another whole story, but that was the only way to clean them out. So we do have a figure, a 4-hour minimum figure, a daily rate that I can get for you.
And then this piece of equipment, can it be used for other things that we need? I know very little about this topic, but say we purchase something, is it something that's only used at Butterfly, or would it help the town in other ways in other
Well,
places?
oftentimes we jet lines. Jetting lines is just another flushing lines out, and the storm scepter,
Back truck.
get that, the vac truck has that tool on it. If I thought it was financially feasible to buy a vac truck, I think I would bring that forward to the capital planning committee. Just a few years ago, we brought a plan to them about a truck, decommissioning this, building that, new this, and a new clamshell catch basin cleaner. But certainly if it was the pleasure of this board and to move it in another direction, I could provide that information, the cost of that.
I just think it would be good to have the data of what it would cost to outsource it.
Sure.
Is it
And I can get
annually?
that. Yeah, I can get that for you.
And I agree with you that a study of what does it cost when you accept a road,
Yeah, there must be a way to discern if the plows have to go in here, it's a court, it's got to be tricky to plow that and then come back. Just how much it costs per running quarter mile to plow or do anything. It would just be interesting to know what we're adding. And to your point, Mr. McQuaid, it's not necessarily to deny it. I'm not looking for reasons to deny it. I'm looking to understand what we're taking on at the very least. That's all.
I think that's a responsible
Yeah.
thing to do.
Excellent.
Thank you. The reason why I ask is I manage condo associations, and the number one expense is snow removal, and then also these storm drains. And so I understand, I develop these budgets, and I understand that if you can find a way to cut costs, you can. But the benefit of a condo association is that you get your house painted every 4 to 5 years.
Sure.
Your lawn's always taken care of. You have no concerns about living in a bad, crappy neighborhood. You don't have to worry about looking across the street and
Well,
seeing
the
your
people at
neighbor.
Cortlandt Circle are pretty happy up there, but now
Yeah.
Cortlandt Circle's been around long enough so that they have to do some infrastructure repair, pavement, and it's going to be pretty
Yeah,
expensive.
and that's about the time usually when they're like, you know what, let me apply to be a town.
Well, they can't do that now. Ship is sealed.
I appreciate your input as always.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You
Good night.
too.
Thank you, Jack.
Okay, interviews, appointments, reappointments, resignations. Do we have any?
There are none.
Okay.
Right.
Town
Moving
manager
on.
report.
Okay.
Or the rest of the town manager report.
Existing vacancies on committees, I'll read them. Agricultural Commission, 1 regular member, 3 alternate vacancies, 1 vacancy on the Americans with Disabilities Act Commission, 1 vacancy on the Architectural Preservation District Commission, 1 vacancy on the Finance Committee, 1 vacancy on the Housing Authority, which is, we Mr. Dion has actually applied for that vacancy, and that will be on the October 1st agenda. One vacancy on the planning board. We do have one applicant for that, and that is on the October 1st agenda as well. And the zoning board of appeals, one regular member and 2 associate vacancies. And talent bank forms can be obtained on the town website or through the Board of Selectmen's office. The date that Town Council was able to provide the elected appointed officials an open meeting law, conflict of interest, and public records training will be Thursday, October 3rd at 7 p.m., and it will be at the Eagle House.
Can we get some cookies for that?
We'll put it on the menu.
Thank you.
I think that's a conflict of interest.
Are you sharing them?
Exactly, yeah.
Update on the Pleasant Street Bridge over Pearl Brook. The DPW director, the engineering firm, and I met on Thursday, September 12th, to review the schedule of the design, bidding, and construction phases of the repair to the Pleasant Street Bridge over Pearl Brook. The design phase through Mass Department of Transportation will take most of this fiscal year, and the project is expected to be out to bid in the spring. The hope is that the construction will take place over the summer when school is not in session. It is expected that we will need to close Pleasant Street during construction, and will give notice well in advance before construction commences. As recall, we received $380,000 for the repair of this bridge through the Mass DOT's Small Bridge Program.
Now, do you get that in advance, or do you have to get reimbursed later? How does that work?
It's a reimbursement, but it's a monthly invoice, so which is nice. You don't have to wait till the project's complete.
Oh, okay, you get it incrementally?
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. The Town Hall chairlift. As a follow-up to the action item that Chairman Alonso brought up about the Town Hall chairlift issue of the door to the chairlift getting caught on the rug of the first floor, I spoke with the facilities director about it, and he relayed that the elevator company did come out and shave down the bottom of the door so that it no longer sticks on the carpet of the first floor access. To go one step further, he is going to adjust the door hinges so that it is easier to open from the inside of the chairlift, and it will close more slowly. Police union negotiations. The second negotiation session with the police union was held yesterday, and we have an executive session planned for October 1st to update the board on the status of negotiations. Update on the Recycling IQ Kit grant. The Recycling IQ initiative is now officially underway. I interviewed and hired 4 inspectors that began today, and the first training week allows the inspectors to leave an informational card on containers on the streets on routes that will be included in this initiative. Beginning during week 2, inspectors will begin leaving OOPS tags, and all the households will be tracked on if non-recyclable items were found in their containers. The total length of the program is 9 weeks, with a goal of cutting our contamination in half.
What does that mean, households will be tracked on?
So every day that is the inspectors go out and go to each household, they'll be tracking and which household, had, say, tanglers in their recycling that wasn't supposed to be there, or
Food contamination.
Food contamination, or plastic bags,
So
or
it'd be
bags
Wire
trash.
hangers,
Right.
any kind of metal wire is not allowed.
Okay.
So they're basically just assessing whether people are following the guidelines of recycling.
And
or-
improving,
Right.
hopefully improving.
Thank you.
An update on the ADA Public Rights of Way Self-Evaluation and Transition Plan. Relevant staff, the Americans with Disabilities Committee members, and I met with staff from Montechusett Regional Planning Commission and the engineers from the firm Stantec to discuss the work that Stantec has done to date in performing a self-evaluation and inventory analysis of all the town sidewalks, crosswalks, ramps, and accessible pedestrian signals as part of an ADA Public Rights of Way project. Stantec's review took into account 8 miles of sidewalk, the pedestrian ramp network, and the condition of the sidewalks, if there were obstructions or tripping hazards. They've reviewed their preliminary results and the results of a survey that was done to indicate areas identified by respondents on where they would like to see proposed new sidewalks that currently do not exist. Stantec has further work on this self-evaluation component and expects to issue the findings of this report in a couple of weeks. After the self-evaluation is finalized, there will be a public meeting in order to get more input on prioritizing future sidewalk and ramp repair locations, and that will help inform a 5-year transition plan to address any portions of the network that are not ADA compliant. This public meeting will likely be at the end of October or beginning of November. An update on the ADA self-evaluation transition plan for public facilities and parks. Montechusett Regional Planning Commission is currently performing the ADA self-evaluation on public facilities, including the schools. MRPC staff has worked with the town's facilities director and the school facilities director to tour these buildings and complete these assessments. The self-evaluation is expected to be complete in approximately 1 month. As part of creating the transition plan for the facilities and parks, a public meeting to obtain input will also be part of the process. A time frame for this public meeting may be around the same time frame as the public rights of way public meeting, but not on the same evening. Other announcements: Town Council office hours for September are September 23rd from noon to 4, and for October 23rd, noon to 4. I attended the Dementia Friendly Action Team meeting today and the Capital Planning Committee meeting. And I have a Regional Dispatch Administration Board meeting tomorrow during the day and a Parks Commission meeting tomorrow night. And Thursday we'll be attending a Mass Municipal Managers meeting in Devens and the appreciation reception or the Selectmen's Ball, as it's being called.
And that is at the Eagle House
Eagle
on
House.
Thursday from 6 to 8, right?
Yes.
Okay, I will be able to be there from like 6 to like 6:40 because I have an engagement.
Another ball.
Yeah, another ball. I have to leave the ball early, yes.
I want to say a special thank you to Elaine for all the work that she's put into this appreciation event. She's done a lot to
Please
plan it.
extend our thanks through you to her, please.
And is there anything that you or her need from us in advance of that? Like, is there any?
If you haven't responded that you're going, we need to know that. So you can let me know tonight at the
I'm
end of the
going.
meeting. Okay. All right.
Children welcome.
Of course.
Do we approve a 1-day liquor license?
Is this a special event?
How special.
Wait, it's municipal on municipal. We're fine.
All right. Okay, current business, request to place and fund 7 Architectural Preservation District signs in Lunenburg by the Architectural Preservation District Commission. Mr. McGrath, welcome back.
So we're requesting signs to define the district. There's a lot of confusion about where it is, particularly with new people moving into town. We've had people move in and buy houses, and they're livid that they have these rules and regulations that they didn't know about when they bought the house to do work on their house. So we're requesting funding for these signs. There'll be 2 on Mass Ave, 1 on Leominster Road, 1 on Lancaster Ave, Oak Ave, Highland, and Chestnut. So all the entries to the district.
How much will each of them cost? What kind of cost are we looking at?
Is it like $84 or something on there?
Yeah, 84
I'm
bucks a
sorry.
piece
I
or
could have
something.
Was that including installation?
DPW director said that they would take care of the installation. There are some signs there that denote the historic district that approximates the APDC.
DPW would install them? I'm
Yes.
assuming? Okay.
So they could probably use the same signpost and combine the APDC sign with the historic district sign. So.
Do you currently provide mailings to people? You said that there were people who were concerned that they move into a district and then find out that they can't make these improvements to their home. Does the APDC provide any mailings to the people who are in the district that says, hey, you're in this district, here are the rules? Or when people are purchasing homes?
No, the APDC has no funding, so we haven't done that.
Do you think the signage alone, I mean, I'd be challenged to question how many people have read most of the bylaws, but I mean, would the signage alone, do you think trigger people to know that there's some set of rules attached to?
We thought that the signs, considering the signs are fairly large, that people would question what it's about if they were buying real estate in the district. I don't know.
I think it helps raise awareness in general.
Yes,
and
yeah.
I mean, it's not the only place where people find out. It's also in our online GIS. There's a layer in the zoning layer. It appears there. It's on the property cards, and people.
Yes.
If they do their due diligence, they should certainly.
Yeah.
Is a map of the district available on the website?
It is. It's in the rules and regulations of
It's in the assessor's GIS too.
That's what's important, right? So, I mean, I agree with Mr. McQuaid. If somebody does their due diligence,
Yeah.
this allows people in town and people who are riding through it to at least identify the area in general sense. But if they want an exact sense, if I was buying a house, I'd want to know that. So,
Yeah. We didn't think it was our jurisdiction to notify the real estate community
right.
of this. Yeah.
Boundary-wise, and I don't know the answer to this, what's the difference in boundary between the Village District and the Architectural Preservation District?
Preservation district is bigger, isn't it?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And the Historic District and the Architectural Preservation District? Because we don't actually
APD's
have the Historic District.
Preservation district is larger than the historic district.
All right.
I like the idea of the signs because it sort of brings awareness, not just to buying or selling, but just to everybody that there's something that we
Yes.
value in our history. And
Yeah.
just seeing the sign might get people to think about it. And so, is this a sign that's been designed or the concept?
Yes,
'Cause it's
yeah,
cute.
that
Yeah.
sign was approved by the commission.
And are there any other districts in town that are noticed by signs?
Oh, yeah. A historical district.
I
think has
mean,
some.
Historic District, I've seen like one sign for that.
There's Heart Safe District, right?
And years ago, Leominster did
Heart Safe
something along
Community.
these lines where there'll be a sign in Kings Corner. Or
Yeah.
they've sort of designated different named regions in
Yeah,
their
different
area. And I think,
neighborhoods.
I like that. This is along those lines.
Yes.
And maybe to that point, maybe there's other places that we can call attention to
Yeah.
that have some type of significance, the way Leominster did.
Yeah, it makes people aware, and I think it creates pride in the community.
I agree. So I entertain a motion about the request for funding these 7 signs.
Move we approve the request to fund the 7 architectural preservation district signs.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
And the motion was to approve the funding, but I think, do we also need to approve the placement? Was that in there? Or is it just for funding?
Well, it's just for funding right now. Well, to place and fund.
So we
should
may wanna
probably
amend the
probably
motion.
ask. We should probably ask where the places are going to be before you do it.
It'll be on those streets at the perimeter.
Right, I know, but those
of the
streets are big,
district.
so where they are on those streets would be, I'm assuming, at the edge of the district.
At the
Yes.
entrance to it?
So
Yeah,
if you could just provide a map to us where they're going to be, that would be excellent.
okay, yeah.
Compared to our entering Lunenburg signs, how does this compare in size? Yeah, I see. I just don't know how big our entering Lunenburg signs are. 24 inches, is so 2
2
feet.
feet
by a
by
foot and a half.
1.5 feet.
Okay.
It's probably close to the same size. I've never measured one, but I got to believe it's close to the same size.
I'd say the intern Lunenburgs are twice the size of that.
Twice the size? Really?
The
4
real
feet?
big entry ones are
No.
are larger than 2.
4 feet wide? That's
Yeah, I mean,
quite a size.
They're huge, but we're
pretty big.
driving by them most of the
Yeah,
time.
Road
I
signs
would have
aren't
to
small.
guess, yeah. I mean,
I think
visually driving
This is
down the road
excellent.
and.
Personally, I think, what you guys do in the Architectural Preservation District, I think that a lot of people don't even know that it's there, and that, the signage, even though I sometimes ask questions that don't always mirror my point of view, I do think that it's important to make people aware that this is a part of town that's special for different reasons.
Yes, I find that a lot of the people in the district glad that there's a district there. They really love their houses, and I think it'll bring, it'll fit right in with how they feel. There are people in the district that don't want to be in the district that are in there,
Even
but
people outside of it that wish they were in.
Right,
Yeah.
so that we should get those people together.
You're not that much bigger than that, right?
I think it's kind of ironic that the sign has nothing architectural about it.
It's the
It's kind of
17.
interesting.
So this is 17 by 22, so it's about the size.
Okay.
so you want me to bring to the next meeting
Just before you're placed, before they're placed, we'd just like to know where they are. Doesn't have to be the next meeting.
all right.
And to that point, and I don't know if the planning board would be better or something, because it is a larger sign, we want to make sure that it's placed someplace where there's no, like, visibility issues and things like that. Like,
I'm going to trust the DPW director
DPW
is
is on
going to be putting them in, so, yeah, I agree. I don't think he's going to put something that he's going to restrict sightlines and stuff for people.
Okay, so I'll get in touch with Jack too and go over it with him, and then we'll let you know.
So,
Does town signage require the approval of the planning board because of the signage bylaw?
no, but there is no bylaw that restricts town signs.
I know there's, okay.
So all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It is unanimous.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Right of first refusal of 250 Howard Street. It's being removed from Chapter 61B.
Yes, so the notice is within your Google Drive, and it was sent to town council. It is compliant with what needs to be included in the notice. It has been forwarded to the appropriate boards, and in addition to the boards that by law it's required to be sent to, it's also been forwarded to the Open Space Committee as well.
And have we are we putting a placeholder on the special town meeting in case they come back?
Yeah, that's one of the ones I wanted to discuss with the board tonight.
Okay.
So we have 120 days
Right.
to.
It's preemptive because we have 120 days to decide, which means if we didn't do it on special town meeting, we'd have to call a town meeting. And we're putting it there. We have no idea what all the boards who have to weigh in, how they're going to recommend. So we're just putting it there as a placeholder. And they may come back and say, nope, it's not worth us buying it, and we'll just pass it over.
My understanding that this piece does have a lot of connectivity to current conservation land, et cetera.
Well, it's directly
Yes.
abuts 260 Howard Street, which
Yep.
the town already owns. But I don't think it attaches to anything. Oh, no.
To-
Well, no, diagonally. There's a diagonal
Yeah.
touching point of 573 West Townsend Road.
Right.
So it's on the map in the.
This is 15 acres for $60,000. Could this be subdivided? Do we know the answer to that?
I do not know the answer to that.
Looks like a hammerhead lot, right?
Yeah, it doesn't say what the frontage is, so.
It's hard to tell from this. If I were just looking at this map, I'd be like, oh, that's like an acre and a half. But once you see how big these lots are,
The frontage looks pretty similar to the frontage on some of those other parcels, right? So it's probably got enough frontage.
you need 50 feet for a road, though.
But I mean, when you look at the other parcels,
Yep.
8, 9, 10, they're about that same size, so it's got to be, there's some reason for that consistency.
Yeah, but those are just one single-family home, so. Question is, can they subdivide it?
Oh.
So, yeah, we know we can put a home on this, but
Okay.
can you put more than one home on this?
Yes. Gotta
I
be
guess
the
you can put
outline,
two.
just-
There's one, you can have two with a shared driveway, right?
You do share driveway, yeah.
That's just, but a maximum of two,
I
right?
believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so at least they can do that, but anyway, it's really a matter if it's relevant to some of the conservation, and we'll hear from the other boards.
Yeah, because it's not that much money.
I don't know if there's anything else anybody wants to discuss with this.
No, I'd wait to hear what the other boards have to say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, minutes. We have the minutes of August 13th. And Way ahead of me, warrants. Accounts payable, $311,451.98. And payroll deductions in the amount of $167,816.57. And payroll in the amount of $811,390.09. Any action file issues? Action files from the board?
Just ask for if there's any update talking to the state about the Walmart intersection and potential improvements to the,
Nope, not since
Traffic
my
light.
last one. So the next step would be them to conduct their own traffics.
and are they doing that, or do we know if they're doing that?
That was the next step, but they're not currently doing it.
Report on the, do we have the report for the ballot question that came up?
That's in my hand still. So I am not intentionally, but in the fact of dragging my feet. So. Okay, committee reports.
Capital
Good.
Capital Planning met today, and we kind of finalized or decided on what we're going to send out to department heads for a structure for them to fill out their requests. New this year is we're running kind of a point system that was derived from an example from the Collins Center that they put together to help us kind of quantify requests based on a number of different criteria to help in the decision-making process.
Great.
Excellent. Any other committee reports? Has somebody heard at the 9 o'clock hour or the 8 o'clock hour, the bell rang, so the town clock has, we believe, been repaired and back up and running after many months of waiting for it to be repaired. So we'll see if it stops at all, but so far, fingers crossed, so far so good. Okay, town meeting performance evaluation procedure. Okay, I submitted that to the
Town manager, you mean?
Manager, not
You said
meeting.
town meeting.
town manager well, let's evaluate everything while we're at it. Town manager evaluation procedure. I apologize. I put that to the board today in writing. What we had talked about at a previous meeting. This is I think the first time we've had a full board to discuss adopting this. Has everybody had a chance to review this process? Is there? Just for people at home, I will quickly go through the 11 steps. So, number 1, each member of the select board completes the select board approved town manager evaluation form. 2, each member can, at the individual member's discretion, obtain feedback by speaking with individuals who work for and/or with the town manager to be used when completing the organizational leadership and personnel management segment of the evaluation instrument. 3, select board members would be required to provide supporting examples based on their personal experience only for ratings of consistently exceeds expectations, which is the highest score, or unsatisfactory, which is the lowest score, but any other rating would not require supporting examples, although they can be included if desired. Number 4, each member would receive a copy of the town manager's self-evaluation when completed and will make an appointment to review their own evaluation with the town manager. After their discussion, each member can make adjustments to their evaluations as necessary based on their conversation with the town manager. Once all the individual select board members have met with the town manager, the completed evaluation forms will be submitted to the chair of the select board for the purpose of writing the composite evaluation. 6, at an open meeting of the select board at which the town manager's evaluation is on the agenda, the completed composite town manager evaluation form will be distributed to the entire select board, the town manager, and entered into the public record. 7, the period between the release of the composite town manager evaluation form into the public record and the discussion of said evaluation by the select board at a subsequent open select board meeting. The select board members may review in a controlled environment the other members' individual evaluation forms for the purpose of ascertaining whether the composite evaluation fairly and adequately reflects the viewpoints of all the individual evaluations. 8, at no time are the individual evaluations to be entered into the public record, either by having it read in total or in part into the record, or by direct reference at an open meeting of the select board. 9, at a later opening meeting of the select board at which the town manager's evaluation is again on the agenda, the composite town manager evaluation form will be discussed, modified if necessary, and its acceptance voted upon by the entire select board. 10, once approved, the composite evaluation will be discussed with the town manager and the select board members at an open meeting. It could be the same meeting as number 9, by the way. And 11, the approved composite evaluation will be placed in the town manager's personnel file and be part of the public record. So I would open that up to conversations or motions as desired by the members.
Sure, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'm going to repeat what I had said when this was created and when we talked to council about it, is that if item 7 occurs, which is looking at other people's input privately, and number 8 is legally required, which it is, that we cannot disclose the information because then it becomes public record. I think we make number 9 impossible, which is to make modifications based on information we know but can't say. So 7, 8, 9. It doesn't work. Because if I'd rather not read other people's input and just show up to the meeting and individually discuss our own, because if we all read each other's input, it's going to become very impossible to have 9, which is to create a discussion, to create modifications. Once we take in data, it's going to be hard to dissect what we should and shouldn't be saying or using, and I think we may accidentally have each other's individual reports end up public record, which are not supposed to be. And I think that's what I said when we created this, but I feel like it's just not necessary to have the step where we look at each other's evaluations. I think we can evaluate our own evaluations, and if our voice is in the composite, then if we all say we see our own voice in the composite, then it's a good composite. Reading everybody else's and then me trying to say, but that thing that's, Phyllis said that I really liked, but I read, but whoops, I can't say that. I don't know how we even have that discussion once we read each other's forms. So I think we're setting ourselves up for failure.
Other discussions?
And I don't know what we gain.
I mean, I agreed at the time with Ms. Adams that I don't feel the need to review anyone else's, but I mean, if it's other people are going to do it, then I am certainly going to as well, so I have that information, but I agree, I don't need to go through that step of the process. I don't think there's anything wrong with the way this is laid out. I mean, I think we can perform number 9 as long as we stick to what our own review was in the context and not start referencing other people's. I think it's a perfectly fine process, the way you have it laid out here.
So what do we gain by reading someone else's review but can never discuss it?
Well, first of all, we said when when Labor Council was here, there are ways to discuss things that we know without making the public record. You don't say in so-and-so's evaluation. If you refrain from statements like that, you can say that there were discrepancies in this portion that I don't think this properly captures the viewpoint of the board as a whole.
We can't ever modify it without the actual information, and once you present the actual information, then you've created the public record circumstance. It's fine. I mean, we can go down that path, but I don't see why we need to do it that way.
Well, again, first of all, number one, I'm not averse to taking it out if that's what the board wants. Number two, I'd point out that you don't have to review it. You may review it. So if you feel uncomfortable or you don't want to be put in a position where you may say something for anybody, any of us on the board, that's fine. I understand that. I just want to know what the board wants so we can.
I guess even if people review mine, they could use content from it accidentally and make mine become a public record. So you can't really even protect your own evaluation. So mine's back there. I don't want to read everybody else's because I don't want to set myself up to create a public record inadvertently. But somebody could quote out of my report, make my evaluation public record.
I think it's.
So.
I mean, I think what you're saying, this Selectman Adams, makes a lot of sense on how it's, conflictual between 7, 8, and 9. But I think it's somewhat of an exercise that we have to, a professional exercise we have to demonstrate. I see the value, working with you guys, I see the value in having some insight into how you may perceive someone that I also develop perceptions of. I think that to me will help me understand how to work better with you guys, and also give me some insight like I said, into just generally what you're looking for, what you're I think there's a lot of value in reading someone else's assessment, and I will, but I would not disclose it in a public setting, and I certainly don't think that they should be public. But that's the only reason why I would want to do it.
And the reason we don't want them public record is because it's in the town manager's contract that they are not.
Well, they're personnel records.
So what happens if somebody else makes my personal evaluation of the town manager public record by using it after they've read it?
I mean, it's a mutual trust. We all run the same risk. I mean, and again, it's about being careful about what we say, which basically we always should. I mean, we have many executive sessions, and it's in everybody's best interest and obligation to not disclose that too. And sometimes what we know in executive session kind of mixes what happens in regular session. And so, yeah,
The
it's a
nuance
trust
being
issue.
in executive session, we discuss things together.
Right.
But this situation is much different in that we have content that we can't even discuss. We've created something we can't discuss. So it's
You can
quite
discuss it
different.
generally.
Right.
The flavor.
Right, you can discuss that the overall sentiment is not captured, and you don't say, because I think Mr. Jeffries or Mrs. Luck made something more negative or more positive, and that's not captured. You say, I just don't think this section captures what the overall board sentiment was.
Okay, I think it's just making it more complicated than it needs to be, and we can just have the discussion if our voice is heard, and I'm pretty sure Selectman McQuaid had said if we all feel like our voice is in there, then it's a good composite.
And this, whether you accept or don't accept number 7, I think you have that option to say that. I mean, I think that's kind of the preliminary foundational step of reviewing the composite anyway, is if I'm in this case, this year I'll be the one writing it, but if I was the one reading it, the first thing I'd want to know is, okay, where do I hear myself in this? And if everybody says, oh yeah, I hear myself in various places, then that's fine. And maybe people don't need to read it. I just think they should have the ability to.
I agree. Now, 8, the Attorney General says they may become public record, right?
No.
Yes.
They if you mention them, then by definition they become public record. It's not that they may. We would be breaking, I believe.
You aren't breaking open meeting law if you do discuss
We're
it.
just breaking our contract.
This is the problem. The conflict is it breaks personnel records confidentiality. All of our evaluations individually are personnel records of the town manager. By her contract, only one is to be made public. It's the composite document. So if you inadvertently state or read your own or read a section of your own, you have now entered that into public record. That's by definition. So now it is a public record. But it's, of course, at odds with personnel records that are not supposed to be disclosed.
And the part that makes this stressful to me is that somebody could.
8 is saying that we all agree that we're not going to do that.
Okay, that's perfect.
But the confusing part to me is that if somebody quotes out of something they've read off of mine could become public record
Anybody's can
through
write it.
somebody
Well, he's
else's.
disagreeing that we're not going to do that.
Yes, right.
Right. So the real thing is, if you talk about it, you certainly you don't mention who it came from, and you don't mention a specific quote. You just talk about an overall sentiment or an overall characterization,
It's
that's
very
all.
complicated.
But again, I think the underlying foundation criteria should be, is your voice in there? And if everybody says that, then then there shouldn't really be a need for, discussing much anyway, so.
Right,
But
right.
Gives
But
them-
I think someone might feel better having perused them all, that, yep, I really agree with that composite.
Yep.
I feel good about that.
But if you don't, what's the pathway to change it without discussing something you've read that you can't say?
Again, you generalize and say,
Right.
I really felt that in this particular area, the overall sentiment was this.
Was more negative or
was
more positive.
Yeah, right.
Exactly, just exactly that.
And we can we are allowed to talk to one another individually, as long as we don't talk collectively.
Well, you
No, we're
starting to cross-
I wouldn't argue for
Serial.
that. I wouldn't argue for that.
Yeah.
But we can talk
right.
about it in generalizations.
But again, this is saying we agree to these ground rules and we trust each other that this is the way we're going to
Right.
behave.
So I'd make a motion that we accept the town manager evaluation procedure as documented here.
I second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'll just say nay because of that number 7 part seeming confusing.
Okay, it passes 4-1. Just for the public record, it's not an agenda item, but I want to release this into the public record, and I also presented you with a compilation of the Lunenburg Select Board building project criteria list that we went over last week. So if we can put this, somehow distribute this, make it available on the website for the public. These are the things we listed.
Do you think it's criteria or evaluation process? It doesn't kind of,
Evaluation, you evaluate things by criteria. That's kind of what criteria are. It's just the rule, it's just how would
You
you
could say
define it?
evaluation criteria, but I think it means the same thing to me.
Yeah. We could put the word evaluation in there if you want.
okay, thanks.
All right, so can you make that change? All right, thank you. All right, so we'll put the title will be the Lunenburg Select Board Building Project Evaluation Criteria,
Right.
Edition 1. All right. 4. Review of public comment and social media policy.
You're
What?
skipping over
Are we doing 3?
Oh, sorry. Discussion. So I know where 4 is going to go then again. Discussion about articles I circled it because before. Discussion about articles for the special town meeting of November 12th, 2019.
Okay.
So I will turn it over to the town manager.
Right. So at this point, our special town meeting articles always include a budget adjustment article for the current fiscal year. So that would be one of the articles.
Are these articles in the Google? Drive?
No. So just
This is our
generally,
last night to
generally
look at them, but-
I don't have
You don't have them?
language per se.
Just the
I have placeholders for articles what I do is I usually put something together, I send it to town council, he makes changes to make sure it's in an appropriate legal form and the way it should be read at town meeting. So the
there'll be
board,
a
it will come
budget.
back to the board, when you're reviewing all your warrant articles, changes can be made to the language at that point for articles that the board submits, so,
When is our next meeting?
October 1st.
October 1st.
And when does this close?
The deadline for the warrant submission is the 30th,
Okay.
yeah.
It'd be cool if we could do this sooner,
Yeah, it was-
because I feel like we're up
agree.
against a hard
It's kind
stop
of odd
here.
that we didn't leave ourselves room, but okay.
Because we shorten the time frame, so we'd have more meetings to review.
Right.
We should still pull this back in the future,
Yeah,
so.
we should note that we should at least know what the articles are, but most of them are going to be pretty pro forma, so let's talk about what they are.
Yeah. So.
Budget adjustment articles.
Budget adjustment article, the collective bargaining article for the police union, that would be, as long as everything's finalized by then. If not, it would be tabled.
Okay.
So that funds the first year of the collective bargaining agreement.
So that's the optimistic one.
Yes. The 250 Howard Street for the purchase of that property, if the board so exercises that right.
So again, for people out there, this is a placeholder. We haven't had any recommendations, but we only have 120 days to act. And in order to do this, since we're having a special town meeting, we hope that the boards will let us know their recommendations before the special town meeting, which I think they
But
will.
tonight, do we have to vote to make these articles then? Wouldn't it need our approval to be an article?
Yeah, they would, we should probably vote to accept these.
Yeah.
That's just
Okay.
listing, yeah.
Butterfly Lane.
Okay, we heard about that tonight.
So if the board does not choose to put that as an article, I would want to contact the property owner to give them sufficient notice if they want to submit a citizen's petition.
Are we gonna have all the information that we need to make a determination? Is the planning board gonna have decided?
The
by then?
October 15th is your scheduled date for that public hearing.
Could that one be potentially moved to the spring, since it just came up tonight, and I don't know if I would support the article
You
without
can
any
table it
information?
at town meeting.
Yeah, we can leave it on and just not address it and
Right.
say, but if we, I mean, you're saying that we should let them know before October?
If you're,
Oh, if we're not gonna
if
put
you're
it
not
on
going to
the-
put it on the warrant.
I think we should put it on, have the public hearing, and if we don't feel comfortable as a board, we can recommend that we pass over it.
So will it be passed over? Who recommend passing over it?
Well, the town meeting gets to decide if you pass over it.
So our stop would be to not do it
We're not
now
gonna do it,
and
if
do
we're
in
not
the
gonna put it
spring.
on tonight, then the town manager is suggesting that we let the property owner know so they can put it on by citizen petition. So it just would
Right.
make it easier if we just put it on and we can make a recommendation at the time.
But doesn't it look like we're in support of it if we
No.
put it on?
No,
Not if we recommend to pass over it.
right. We're putting it on out of courtesy. That's all. Same thing with the right of first refusal. We're just putting it on out of timeline. Not because we support it, we haven't even evaluated it yet.
Okay.
The additional liquor licenses, and there is something in the Google
Yeah, I
Drive on
saw
that,
that.
an email. The board wanted more data from the town council.
So to me, the question about this one, when it gets to the language, I don't mind putting it on and we can finalize the language, but I think that, I don't know. I don't think we should ask for a license specific to a person, to an entity. I
Yeah,
think we
I
should
agree.
ask for another license and then make it open to people.
And that's the guidance that, yeah, if you can give me, and I'll work with town council on the wording, because it will be very standard, language on how you petition the state to, for additional licenses. But, so you also inquired about asking for more than one.
Right.
And so there was, he provided where additional licenses were granted for that.
Sure, so I don't
And-
want to jeopardize it, but if we can, I mean, again, from a logical standpoint, and I realize that the state laws and the ABCC are an illogical organization, it makes no sense that we have any limit, but I don't want to jeopardize it. If we can get one, fine.
Okay.
I think we should do it specific to the person requesting it. I mean, they're the ones that are asking for this. I don't think that there's a overwhelming push to add more liquor stores here in town. But I mean, there is one business that's been around for a very long time that's saying, I want to sell beer.
Well, we didn't provide the opportunity. There's plenty of
Right.
businesses that have been around for a long time who may want that and just haven't asked for it. Didn't
Right,
think it was
because they say, oh, we don't have any more licenses, they may not even know the avenue exists to ask for one in this method.
Yes, and that does happen for the all alcohol package store license.
Right.
So that's the other category where we don't have any other licenses to grant, and that is requested.
I mean, I would,
Commonly.
personally, I would keep asking for one a year until they stop giving them to us, just because I think it's good for business in town, but.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, the fact that everybody has to go through query checks and everybody has to go through background checks, and the ABC has to approve them as well as us as the licensing authority, the fact that there's any limit makes no sense. If the town can, if the market can support it, so, I mean, that's good. We don't prohibit how many donut shops you can have town. I mean,
Right. And we have other farm stands in town who might benefit from the same thing.
Right.
So,
I don't know if I would compare alcohol to donut shops.
no, what I'm saying is that there's a very strict process to get it to begin with, to
Yes.
limit the amount of ones. I mean, that should be up to the towns themselves to, and to do it. It just seems to me to be an antiquated, just like the blue laws were. It's just the same, it's from the same root as that.
Yeah, and I think I supported the blue laws, so I probably.
And that's fine. I mean, I didn't, they made absolutely no sense, but. I mean,
Well, I think they help respect and set aside time for people to focus on their spirituality. I mean, how are we looking on this? So we have two of us are in favor of not specific. I'm in favor of specific. How are Phyllis and, Selectman Luck and Selectman Adams thinking about this?
I'm sort of on the fence. I don't feel a particular need to ask for it specific for that concerned, but I also am not really opposed to it either.
Yeah, I lean towards granting it to that who has asked for it, because they went through the trouble for this to be the discussion in the first place.
What
And
happens if
they have a plan and a vision for it, which is why they've run up against the fact that there's none available and therefore request more. So I think it'd be a very unusual process to have it and then to give it to somebody else. I don't know how, and I think if somebody else out there truly wants it, then they should come forth in the same capacity to say, we need more liquor licenses.
I know that we discussed it last time, but I forget. If Lonnie Orchards decides they don't want it, does it just go away, or can we give it to someone else?
Well, that's a good thing. I don't remember what Adam said on that. Do you remember?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
If Lanny gets it, and then at some point they close up shop or they sell it, or they decide they don't want to do it, does the town get the license? Or because it's special legislation, does it go away from the town totally? Or do we have one extra liquor license? I think if we ask for it without them, we have an extra liquor license.
Right. But if we ask for it for them, if they go away, it goes away. So that would be a reason not to get it specifically for them, with the understanding we're going to give it to them. But if they decide they don't want it, then we have it.
And it seems almost like it would seem almost like
I know that he mentioned it, I just can't remember.
it would seem almost like a rigged process in my mind, that if Lanny Orchards is asking for this, then we say, well, we don't want to give it specifically to you, but we're going to make it open to everyone, and then it goes to Lanny Orchards. I mean, I think it could create a concern from the other people who may apply that, well, did I even really have a chance?
so
Well,
what,
I think if we go to the legislature knowing that, if the case is that if Lonnie decides he doesn't want it, it goes away, I think there's a strong case for, then let's just apply for it generally and, not make it available to everyone, just give it to Lonnie. And if he decides he doesn't want to do that anymore, then the town has it to give it to someone else. I don't think it's that big a deal.
so just a question, why did you get the feeling that they wouldn't approve multiple?
Well, it's kind of interesting because on the second page, or page
Yeah, this
2
one
of the
I'm reading.
report, it says that the range of licenses granted in a single petition was 1 to 20. And in businesses yet to be named, the general increase, there were 20 of the 41 home rule petition requests. There were 20 that were businesses yet to be named, so it was just a general increase of the quota. That's on that list on page 2.
And 91 yet to be named that were assigned to specific districts.
So, yeah, 139 licenses, right? So I don't see why we couldn't ask for 2, and although Adam says they're less likely to receive approval, but page 2 doesn't seem to bear that out.
Yeah, it says though roughly 66% of the petitions granted were for single name package store, convenience store, grocery store, or restaurant, The legislature seems to have no problem granting multiple license in a single petition for existing businesses or businesses yet to be named.
Well, there is a compromise here that we can do both. We can ask for two where one is named.
That's what I'm getting at. Ask for one specific and then ask for another for anyone else who's interested.
I think I'd be for that.
I think that's the perfect compromise, because then we go down the path for what's been requested, but then if somebody hears there's an opportunity, then we have the opportunity to, yeah, that makes sense.
How does the
That's
board
fine.
feel about that?
Oh, I don't like the idea of 2 more liquor stores opening up in town, so I don't support it. But I think it's a fair compromise.
You're tough. You're tough.
I think it's a fair
You want it to be
compromise.
just for Lanny's, but if we want to include Lanny's and one other one,
Yeah.
then you're not for it. If we want to include it and not name Lanny's, you're not for it.
Correct. And we wouldn't be talking about this if Lanning's didn't ask us to. But I mean, to the topic of does a town need 2 more liquor stores? I think the answer to that is no. But I mean, but Lanning's, I think if they want to add in some craft beer and some other stuff, which is kind of hard to find around here, then I think that should be fine.
Well, we can issue the license, so then I guess we have some, I mean, saying it's a liquor store versus a farm having some boutique sales of liquors and whatnot, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
I mean.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, if somebody makes a motion, we can do that. Whatever they make a motion to do.
Should we?
well,
just-
should we do motions at the end? Because we haven't made motions for any of these potential articles.
Well, there hasn't been any discussion about any of them, I guess. Was
My
there?
only question would be, should it be 2 separate petitions or one single for 2? Does it matter?
Personally, I think one single for 2, but I mean, I'm a streamlined person.
Right, right.
I would
right.
like 2 separate articles.
I didn't know, in case,
So he can be for one and against the other one.
Exactly.
There you go.
but my only thought was just in case, again, if the state were to say, I'm not going to do 2, they could give us the one specific and drop the other one.
I'm totally flexible. This is, I mean, I'm not digging in my heels on something like
Well,
this.
I'd make a motion that we apply for 2 separate petitions, one named to be for Lonnie's Orchards and one for
An additional.
business set to be named.
Is it,
And
they
what
bo-
kind
are
of
they
license
both
are you
beer and
asking
wine?
for? Both beer and wine?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll
So-
second that.
So therefore, it's not a liquor store, right? Somebody's selling beer and wine.
All right.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion with that?
I can support it.
Just have a
Right.
question. When's the last time we upped our amount of liquor licenses? Do
It
we
gets upped
know?
when the population went above 10,000.
That would have been
Okay.
a few years ago then.
Yeah, so the last census, I guess.
And our population's quite a bit higher, so I guess just.
I don't know what the next threshold is, so I guess we can, I don't know.
Mm.
I think beyond 10,
Yeah, I'd have to check
beyond
the
10,000, I don't know
regulations.
how big you have to get. Maybe you have to be a city even, I don't know.
We need a mayor.
Well, no, I mean, I don't remember, I don't know what the breakdown is. You get them commensurate with population, so. Okay, so all in favor of that motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, passes
Two
unanimously.
separate.
2 separate ones, one for Lanny,
Thank you for that, Dean.
one that's open.
What type for the other?
Beer and
Both
wine.
both beer and
Both
Both
beer,
and wine,
okay,
yeah.
all right. All right. 635 Mass Ave would be another article,
That's right.
the land in front of the public safety building.
Yeah, which we already
Yes, which I should have,
decided on.
I mean, I'm sorry that that was discussed in executive session and voted by the board last week. So we are going to have a article, as just noted by the town manager, for the potential purchase of the house in front of the public safety building, which is 635 Mass Ave. So it's in its preliminary stages, and again, as we get the wording right and the pricing and everything, we'll let everyone know. But it is available, and so we are entertaining bringing that to the town meeting.
And that was house and land.
Yes.
Another one that was identified in the past, that a bylaw that needed to be changed, was Chapter 81 about town meetings, about the submission of warrant articles on the 42nd day before the town meeting, which is a Saturday. And so moving that deadline to
41st day.
well, I would actually suggest, based on the dates that we're required to have articles in, get submitted to the printer, have everything done, to be the 60th day before town meeting. Because that time crunches.
Okay.
And it gives the,
What day of the week is that?
yeah, it's a Tuesday
Oh,
Okay, so you're pushing it
to a,
almost 3 weeks back.
that would be my recommendation
That
based
seems
on
like
the
a
schedule.
long way to throw that back.
But you open the warrant in January or February, so
But is this for all town meetings or just annual?
just the annual.
Okay. Okay, I can. That's for changing the bylaw for citizen petition articles?
No,
For anybody's article?
yep, the close of, yep, when articles need to be submitted by.
So it gives more time?
It gives additional time for
not for,
Review.
not for submission.
review, as well
Less time
as
for
to meet all our time schedule to get
Guess
the
I could
warrant
need
put
to-
together.
More clarity on what exactly happens versus how it is now and how it would be.
So the first problem that she indicated now is that the deadline is on a Saturday, which obviously the town meeting is not open. So that's not good. So it has to be either a day before or 2 days after.
Well, that's why I was expecting the 40 number to change
Right,
by a
right.
skosh. So the
Right.
jump to 60, I don't
Right, so
understand.
now the town manager's asking for it to be 19 days earlier, which would be on a Thursday. I believe that
Tuesday.
would make it a Thursday.
No,
Tuesday.
Or
18 days, so it's a Tuesday.
Okay.
So it was 43,
But was 42
42.
Right.
to,
So,
to 60th.
so
So
49
effect-
would be a Saturday, 56 would be a Saturday, 57, 58, 59, 60 would be Tuesday, yes.
So the effect then,
Yes. Yes.
so the effect then is that we would have special town meeting in November and then new warrant articles open in January?
For the annual
For the
town,
annual.
For the
annual
annual.
town meeting.
That one is usually open very long because all the departments and all the committees, commissions, boards have to submit things.
And when would that roughly close then?
So that would be, let me look at a calendar.
First Saturday in May is the town meeting, so
I think it's
2 months
March,
earlier than
March
that.
10th would be this year's.
Right.
Because the first,
So this makes
Saturday.
it close even sooner.
Yes.
I don't support
I
that
can't support that.
because I don't even understand where they're coming from.
If you have to collect signatures, not that it's that hard, but I mean, it's snow on the ground until the 10th of March. And that's just about a guarantee. Whereas pushing it out to the end of March, you might actually be able to knock on someone's door.
And to make a change, I want to see who has made a complaint on this needing to be changed. This is the first I've heard of it, other than I agree with shifting a deadline off of a Saturday. I don't understand shifting something by 18 days.
How did you come to the 60 days?
based on the annual town meeting schedule that we put forth to meet all our deadlines to get the warrant reviewed, signed off by the Board of Selectmen, posted, get printed, because the whole booklet needs to go out to every household. It has to go to the printer. It's almost a month in advance of town meeting. And so
This gives
it meets
18
all
less
those.
days for citizens and folks to participate on the front end before it's closed. I don't
Let me ask you this,
support
when
that.
is the printing date for special town meeting? When do we have to have the wording for this done?
We've always done it.
Because I'm for putting an article that has to change the bylaw, but I think we need to have a discussion on when that day should be.
Have requirements changed in the last
Hold
like
on,
year?
let her, I just want to see.
So it's the first, last year it was the first week of April.
No.
I believe
For
that.
this article you want to put on the special town meeting, when does this special town meeting warrant have to get printed so the wording goes out? Because whether we change, I think we probably all agree that we should change it from a Saturday.
Yes.
That I think we all agree. The question is, where do we put it?
Right.
My initial first reaction is that putting it 18 days sooner, more than 2 weeks sooner, may be going too much on the other side. So I could live with a week, so I could live with, 40 to 50 days, which would be the Friday before or the Thursday before, so 51 days or something like
Yeah,
that.
I'd say pull it off the Saturday and even either bump it to the Tuesday that would be up and, or Monday, or back to the Thursday. Move it off the weekend in either direction, but that would only
Well, we don't want to
shift
make
by a few
it
days.
shorter, so I think that her point is that we want to make it longer, so
So, like-
either we move it to 44 days, which should be Thursday, or 45, 46, going
I
that
mean, I
direction.
would move it to the Tuesday so there's time to do something with it in the office and not just receive it Thursday when they're shutting down for business.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's
I
true.
agree.
Or Wednesday. I don't know.
But we've always received it technically on the Saturday and then used the time from the following Monday forward to accomplish everything.
No. So, because we're not open on Saturdays.
So they
No, I
had-
mean, it's always closed then, and we've always met all of our, it doesn't make sense to close on a Saturday, I agree, because we're not open. But what I'm saying is that's how it's always happened, and we've always followed through with our schedule as it currently exists in the bylaw for years, right?
Right.
I mean, making it the following Wednesday or something like that, I think makes a lot of sense. And if we find that
Previous?
My probably suggestion would be to put it on a Monday, so we have the selectmen meeting after that. So we would, instead of 42 days, we would have it at 47 days, which would be the Monday before where it stops now. So you'd get the whole rest of that week.
And people lose 5 days. I don't know, having gone
Getting
through
less
this.
time to review it then. If articles are submitted by,
But we're giving ourselves 4 more days than we already have.
And taking it off a Saturday.
okay, you're not talking about pushing it out further.
No,
You're talking, pushing it, okay.
Pushing it
All right.
back in time. So instead of 42, instead of going to 60.
Give me a heart attack.
I'm saying, no, instead of going to 60, you'd go to, like I said, 47,
And-
which would be 5 days earlier.
With the addition of like the assistant town manager and everything, meeting the goals and deadlines should be easier with more hands on deck. So I don't know if we necessarily,
It's about the printing, really getting it to the printer. It's
how do we meet the printing of a special town meeting where the time crunch is usually even smaller?
Because it's less of a
Less
requirement.
constrained.
We don't have this.
Right, it's less
have to
constrained.
mail 'em to-
Special
I
town
guess
meeting is
sometimes what's easier isn't always what's right, and having been on the citizen side of making an article, and I did a lot of research when I did citizen petition, and a lot of communities really support and encourage that type of citizen participation because they're the legislative body. They need time too. And I know that it was hard to accomplish everything in that amount of time, because you had to do a lot of your own legal information and a lot of your own advocacy. And so I think taking away time from citizen participation in the town meeting process is heading in the wrong direction. I would just leave it be.
Well,
But you have all year
right.
to get signatures and for a petition and put something together. It all depends on when you start. But the town manager can't start putting together stuff for the printer until we set this date.
Right.
And I think, moving it a few days to get it off a Saturday is totally reasonable.
Yeah, I'm fine with the 47 or whatever to bump it to the Tuesday.
Monday, yeah.
Yeah, Monday, yeah.
Well, I mean, wouldn't it really, I mean, if it's on that Monday, and let's say it's 4 o'clock, I mean, are we really gonna have time to review this? I mean, isn't that
Well, we'll know
forcing
before
the
our meeting
office
that
to
everything
crunch?
will be in.
Okay.
But with posting an agenda, anything that happens on that Monday, we can't deal with on that Tuesday, no
Sure, we
matter
can
what.
have an agenda, we can post the agenda for review all the articles that are submitted. We don't have to know what they are, we just have to know that it's an agenda item. So certainly we can post it on
Okay.
the agenda.
Tell me,
You live with 47?
Yes, if that's the board's pleasure.
my question was, have the requirements changed? Meaning, is it harder to get the printer to print now than it was a few years ago? Like, what variable has shifted that makes this timeline?
The variable, I mean, it's been a difficult deadline to get everything done in that time frame.
Okay.
Because there's got to be a full review, town council has to do the review, make sure all the wording is right. It gets multiple eyes on it before it goes to the printer. The printer sends back a draft to make sure everything looks good again. And we got to line all that up with when the postmaster can deliver. It's all done through bulk mailings, so all that information has to be assembled as well. It's
And right now, you currently have 5 weeks, and so you're asking for 8, roughly.
yeah. So to give you an idea, the final warrant goes to the printer around April 10th.
And at least from my perception of town politics in the past 10 years, I think the number of articles is expanding. I could be
Right.
wrong, but
Well, I think it goes in ebbs and flows.
I agree with that.
I
I
think
think,
it's been in the 30s for the longest time, for the most part, annual town meeting.
So that would be.
The length of the discussions definitely has increased.
So this year, would have to go the week of April 6th, the beginning of the week on April 6th. So given this time schedule, it would close March 24th. You don't usually meet, you could meet the last Tuesday of March.
Well, I think
And then
that's part of the problem. Part of the problem is we should adjust our schedule when it goes close to town meeting and swap out the week that we're off and talk to the sewer commission and meet after it closes and swap that last March
Okay.
meeting. That makes
That's
sense.
what the adjustments would need to be, though, in
Right,
order
that's
to
fine.
get enough review after it closes. I mean, it's not a lot of time.
Right. Well, I mean, but first of all, most of the articles aren't coming in at the last minute. It's just the final wording, so
Right, you pretty
we
much
could be
know.
reviewing them along the way.
Yeah, but your recommendations have to be done as
Right.
well in the public hearing.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Some of them weren't done last time, and we just
They're
verbalized
not,
it.
but they have to be printed as whether you
So
don't
that-
give a recommendation.
Right, which I can't stand, of course.
Well, let's see if 5 days helps.
Well, that's what
mean,
I would,
that's 5
I would
days.
agree with that. I think we can always adjust it again, but I would try to move it down to the 47 days before.
Okay.
So then the bylaw change, the Chapter 81 bylaw would just say that it would be due in on the 47th day?
Before the special town meeting, right?
Annual
Before the annual town meeting, sorry.
Right.
and we adjust our
got too
meeting
many town meetings
schedule
going
so
on.
we can review it.
And I would just like to add a comment that I think, one thing I asked about the action items was the status of the ballot issue. And I think as the town manager that you are bringing up a really good point, which is that, the time crunch makes the allowance for errors to be made. And so a little bit more time seems to be.
And I will
reasonable.
pledge here that that will be on our next meeting on October 1st. I will have that done, and that the town manager can present the final report. And so I will do that. I am sorry that it's taken this long. But I keep having more things on my plate, which so far tonight I don't. So I can address that.
Not done yet.
So from 42 to
I'm
47.
down, Dave.
Okay.
And it's not that big a deal to change the bylaw, I don't think, either.
No, it's-
You know,
no,
so
it's a-
if
it's a majority
47
vote.
doesn't
It's not a big
work,
thing. Yeah.
we can just bump
Yeah.
it out a little further.
Right.
Yep.
And we need to be flexible and adjust our
Okay.
meeting schedule.
That's,
Was that
that's
everything?
really everything. Yep, that's everything I had for
Okay.
placeholders.
So,
This,
yes?
I just had a question about the budget article. Does the reallocation include funding to support Lake Shirley's testing of the water?
the budget article is just going to be a generic wording article, and as we get close, because we don't even have new growth certified, that's
Okay.
anticipated to be certified around beginning of October. So we can't give a recommendation on any changes to the budget at this point without even having that figure.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
So I would entertain a motion that we approve this list. Again, the wordings will be defined as we get closer, but these are all placeholders, and these are from the town manager's office with our approval. There will be obviously other departments and other committees submitting their own articles that we have we have some say over, but they'll be providing them. We usually give all their elected bodies like planning board and things their own.
Okay, so I just want to summarize that it looks like we have 7 articles coming from us. The first one being budget adjustment article. The second one being collective bargain article for the police union. The third being the potential purchase of 250 Howard Street. The fourth being the Butterfly Lane road acceptance. And then the fifth is 2 petitions for the alcohol license. I don't know if that would be 2 separate articles, so we may have 7 to 8 based on that. 635 Mass Ave purchase, and then the Chapter 81 bylaw change. So I have 7 or 8 if you divide the alcohol into separate. Is that a okay summary, Heather?
Yes, and normally the budget article is submitted by the town manager, so technically.
So that one's technically not, so we have 6 or 7 if we divide out the alcohol.
We've already decided on 2 of them.
And, yeah, and we've made motions for the 2 liquor licenses, and the 635 Mass Ave happened in executive session.
So I would just entertain a motion to the inclusion of the ones that were just summarized by Mrs. Adams and presented by the town manager.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And Mr. Chair, if I may add to the topic, but not to get involved with those ones, that's why I wanted to summarize. I feel very much, since we set it as a goal, and by the springtime we'll be beyond our goal, and these are all placeholders that we need to discuss more, like Butterfly Lane, we're missing some data, and so these aren't concrete or final, and we can pass over them, et cetera. I would like to make a motion that we add on a article, a non-binding article, to offer the demolition of the old primary building to the town so that we can gather sentiment on the future of that building. And so I guess the motion is just that we create an article asking the town if they support the demolition of the old primary building. Because, thank you. I would love that data.
I think
Any
that's
further
really,
discussion?
I wanted to add on to that just to say I think this is very important, for us to get a real sense that, town meeting is a good forum for us to approve millions of dollars in budgets. That I think it can also be a good forum for us to get some good data on standalone, what is the sentiment when it comes to this building. And I think that will help steer our direction. Because if it's an overwhelming no, then I think that changes the topic for us. And for me, I'm like a don't spend another penny. So if the town overwhelmingly says, no, we want to keep this building, then I need to change my own attitude about it to do what the town wants. And right now, I'm obviously...
Great analysis, and for free, we gather the sentiment. And I think it's time that we move forward on a building, and that we set this as one of our agreed goals. And I think this would be a great way to survey the group that actually decides the budget and the future by funding. So it will give us a lot to work with.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion about that?
I would think, I kind of said it before, but I would, to me, a non-binding vote from people who are not going to be the same people necessarily who are there when you're actually trying to take a vote for it, it's not data, it's just a straw poll of potentially different people to get a...
I would also support an article that just actually offered it and funded it.
I wouldn't just yet.
Again, without having a full, real plan and real way to fund it, I think it's premature and irresponsible to bring it to the town. Even if it's non-binding, we have zero answers to provide them when someone asks a question about anything.
I think it helps us know what answers we need to go seek, because it's direction. That's what I see it as.
No, I agree with Mr. McQuaid on this one. I don't think we have enough information.
So I would say that I don't have any problem supporting putting it on with the same manner that we put on some of the other options, that I'm willing to allow it to, be fleshed out. I don't share Mr. McQuaid's feeling that it's irresponsible. I don't know the weight. I always feel that everybody runs aground when they start assessing what town meeting meant by certain votes when they don't go their way or they go their way. So I don't know how much data we can get from that. I don't know how much data we can give them in preparation for it.
Right.
But I'm also not against letting that form. That doesn't mean at the town meeting, special town meeting, depending on how our dialogue goes leading up to that I will vote for it or recommend approval, but I certainly am for putting it on so we can further discuss it and then we can make a determination.
But what are you going to say when Mr. Rogers stands up and says, how much is it going to cost me? What are you going to tell him?
This is a non-binding resolution.
That's a good question. The way, it depends on what the wording is. And I would say that to Mrs. Adams, who made the motion, that I would encourage her and Mr. Jeffries, who quickly seconded it, to come up with the wording they want, because what they word is going to be the answer to that question that you posed to me, that hypothetical question, is going to be how it's worded. And it could be that the motion doesn't include that. It's a feeling of, do you feel that it is even salvageable, or we should even pursue that avenue or not? And again, the weight of the answer we get back is certainly going to be up for interpretation.
And if they want to formulate something, that's fine, and I would just strongly recommend that has some understanding of cost, because, again, if you don't, everyone will say, yeah, sure, go ahead, knock it down, if they don't know. If there's no implication attached to the decision, then you're going to get a different answer.
Right.
I don't disagree.
Mr. Chair, if I may add
Yes.
to the sentiment behind the motion, is that there's a cost in both directions, and there's research in both directions, and we all know it's less expensive to knock it down than it is to renovate it. So to me, it's just to get a feel for the legislative body, because I don't think they'll support millions of dollars in renovations if they overwhelmingly want it to go away. So it's just a bit of research, and I don't think we should be afraid to hear what they're feeling at this point.
So I don't disagree with what you said. I actually agree with what you said. I will say that because it's non-binding and we don't know how many articles are going to be on there, regardless, if it is a non-binding article, I want to make sure that we speak to the town moderator that he will severely limit this, because I don't want the whole special town meeting to turn into a charrette. I don't want everybody to get up and say what they want to do or not do with it. I wanted to keep it very, very controlled, and so it doesn't take over the meeting, so other things that we have to pass don't get addressed.
Well,
So
good
I
luck
just be
with that.
very careful. Well, I mean,
Well, it's our legislative
manager.
body, and I think I think you're doing a good job respecting that we have this wish, because what we're really asking for is to just use town meeting, which is the legislative body. It's a huge part of the democracy in our style of government, just to hear from them. And I agree with you that the moderator should make sure that people understand we're not building the park, or we're not renovating the building, that we put it there as a survey monkey, if you will.
and it may be where we place it on the warrant too. So, but I'm not against putting it on there and letting the proponents of this, flesh out what the wording should be. And I'm a data point person, so Mr. McQuaid, I certainly agree with you. When I'm listening to it, a lot of it's going to be, what do I hope to gain from this, and what are the questions going to be asked? Because I don't want to be caught on the end of one of those hypothetical questions saying, I don't know. We don't know what the answer to that question is. So, but I'm willing to vote for it to get it on there and allow the proponents the opportunity to move that forward.
Thank you.
All right, all those in favor of the of the motion that's been seconded, please say aye.
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 Aye, opposed.
Nay.
So 3-2, we'll put that as a placeholder.
Okay.
We'll put that as an article right now. Okay. I'm gonna, yet again, I don't mean to do this, but I am gonna recommend that we put this, again, it's not, we're trying to do critical things. Is there any reason we need to get these done
No.
urgently? All right, so the policy of public comment and the policy of social media policy, again, we will table until the next meeting, which is October 1st. For those who are interested in upcoming important dates, there's been a lot of discussion at this board and at the Conservation Commission, but the start of the notice of intent of the LSIC, the Lake Shirley Improvement Corporation, they open their notice of intent hearing tomorrow with the Conservation Commission here in this room. And the Conservation Commission, I think their meeting starts at 6:30. I don't know when on the schedule that is. The LSIC is coming up. We mentioned at the beginning of the meeting that we went on a walk about the the public trees that Unitil is hoping to remove and/or trim regarding their storm resiliency program. That public hearing is continuing at the planning board's meeting of Monday, September 23rd. And of course, special town meeting is Tuesday, November 12th, so put that on your agenda or on your calendar as well. Our next meeting, as I said, is Tuesday, October 1st. Any final public comment from the public? One would have to have a public. Public comment from the board.
I have a public comment.
Yes.
So I think that after being here with you guys for a couple months, I certainly think that we're making a lot of progress. That I don't like 4-1, so I don't like 3-2 votes. I much prefer them to be 5-0, 4-1. But I think that as we change the makeup of how we're voting in terms of who is voting 3-2 or who's voting 4-1, that I appreciate that we are able in this setting with one another to express our views, to agree at times, to disagree at times, but to, even though it's a difficult process sometimes, but to keep us moving forward. So I just want to thank you guys for
I would
spirit.
echo that. I appreciate you commenting that. I think it's been good that we've all, tried to work together and listen to each other for all these things, so I agree.
And I have a small public comment that I just wanted to say that I'm not proud of us, but all 6 of us started at 5:30 tonight. And so I guess maybe it's just a
No,
pat
Heather
on
and
the
I
back.
started at 5.
Yeah. And I was here yesterday at 3. And we're all going to the Selectmen's Ball.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Thank you for reminding me. So this Thursday again at the Eagle House, from 6 to 8 is the so-called Selectmen's Ball, the volunteer appreciation event, where everybody who's been volunteering for the town, elected, appointed, other town committees, and people who are interested in serving on those can all meet together and find out about each other and about their boards and about commissions you may want to join. And
In the dress code for the ball.
Coattails.
Lunenburg casual. All right. I would entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None.